Everyone, welcome back. This is Jorge Deborda coming at you again. We have a health talk. If you missed the health talk last week or a couple days ago, um, here we go. I'm just going to have a couple areas where uh, Sean and Ty really go a little bit more into why enzymes are so important and really why you should not just only use it just for digestion, right? Because yes, we do have formulas that help with digestion, that help the body take pressure off of the body from digestion to unlock those nutrients. But there is so many other components to that, to basically holistic health, synergistic health as a whole. So there's an aging component to this, vanity components to this. The reason why thinning of the hair happens, like nails start to get weak, like mine, for example, because the body's needing to keep these nutrients. It's taking it from certain areas. So they go a little bit more info about that. Without further ado, I also would like to say, this is all for informational purposes only, educational purposes only. It's not meant to treat, diagnose, cure, prevent, or diagnose any diseases. This is solely my opinion, and it's solely Sean and Ty's opinion. Of course, always talk to your doctor before you make any changes to your healthcare needs. And without further ado, enjoy the health talk.
Absolutely.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you, Catalina, for inviting us to just, allow us to share what we love doing so much. And if you don't know us, I'm Sean. This is my amazing wife, Tylene. We're the Loomers. Sometimes people call us Ty, Tylene, Loomers, whatever. We don't really care. We do what we do because we love what we do. And we've been doing talks just like right now for the past 20 some years to anyone and everyone who would listen in the beginning, right? And in the beginning, wasn't very many that would listen. It was one or two, and then it became hundreds, and then it became thousands. And, it was just fun to see that growth and that excitement of people, really wanting to take their health more into their own hands.
Exactly.
And now it's come a long, long way. When we first started, no one believed some of the things we were talking about. They thought we were a little bit nutty. And now people really are seeking this type of information. So the purpose of today is really just to share some information with you, maybe some tips or secrets or, I don't know, tricks or whatever you want to call them, little things that we typically don't learn on our own. It always seems like the wealthier people, maybe the elite professional athletes, and we've worked with a ton of those, every kind of sport you can imagine. Tylene has worked with and trained hundreds and hundreds of doctors and health practitioners, and just really about, first and foremost, food and chemicals. We've done a lot of teaching about the foods that we put into our body, the chemicals that we put on our body, our skin, right? Or even what we clean with. We used to teach a lot about that.
In, on, and around.
In, on, and around the body. And of course, our what we're really known for is our gut health. We have to do our little disclaimer, even though we've trained all these doctors.
Not meant to diagnose, treat.
Yes, all those things that you have to be so careful when you're speaking.
Consult with your doctor.
Yes, and even though we have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of testimonials over the years, it's still, we just have to put that out there. So we're just here to offer you some information. A lot of the research when it goes to the gut, we want to start with the gut. It goes back to the 1930s.
Right.
And I'll just share a little bit about how we started together. And then I'm going to kind of let Tylene go. But I had very, very bad pain in my hands. I won't name the disease or whatever you want to call it. And I was, I was early 30s. I was thought I was eating good. I'd already lost my mom to colon cancer. I was doing my own research. I was doing some juicing. I was a head high school football coach, American football, that is. And I was frustrated that I had this pain in my hands. And then I was starting to get this acid reflux stuff in my stomach that runs in my family. I'm the youngest of 8 kids. And it means like, it seemed like a lot of my siblings had the same. And so when Tylene, when we met and we started talking, the first night I met her, by the way, she told me she wanted to save the world. I thought that was kind of corny,
I'm
but
still working on it.
we're both working on it now. But it took her 4 or 5 days once she taught me about words I had never heard, words like plant enzymes and whole food supplements and fresh and living food and stabilized probiotics, these types of things. It only took her a handful of days for my pain to go away. And that pain has never come back, and that's really, really important to us. So,
I'm very passionate about teaching about raw food. That's probably my biggest thing. And we eat just about everything. We don't like to label ourselves. And what we teach people is really eating more fresh and living food. So what we're probably going to focus on today is going to be teaching people about plant enzymes, because that's kind of the life force in a fresh food. And when I say fresh, Sean ate the last apple today, but I have a little plum here, but this will be considered fresh and living. I have some blueberries over there as well. So anything that hasn't been heated, cooked, or processed, so anything over 116 to 118 degrees, once you've cooked it in any fashion with that type of heating, it's going to denature it. One, it's going to lessen the nutrient value, sometimes by half. And it's also going to make it where there's less enzymatic activity. So there's going to be less of that life force in the food itself. And you're like, well, why is that important to me? Because life gives life. The more fresh and living food you bring into your body, there is a whole longevity component. So life gives life. It's going to bring in more nutrients. You're going to get a lot of the phytonutrients and the chemical components that food has to offer that's healing. It's the stuff that the pharmaceutical companies end up making drugs out of, because that particular chemical in that food is so amazing. And so what we want to do is teach people, eat the dang food, and then you don't need the pharmaceutical drug. So one, eat more fresh and living food. And the best way to do that consciously is each meal that you're eating, look at your plate and say, am I eating 50% raw, fresh and living food? So if I'm having eggs and maybe it's scrambled eggs, is the other half of the plate filled with sliced tomatoes, maybe some avocado, some fresh onions, maybe some cilantro, fresh squeezed orange juice? That's going to be a lot of fresh and living food, along with something that has been heated, cooked, and processed that we call dead food. So
yeah, it's really, when we're eating this cooked food, and we all do, we're not raw foodists. We've done that. When we've had people in extreme health conditions, like cancer or what have you, we've done that to support them, where we've worked with those cancer facilities, that kind of thing, in patients.
And the reason they do that is because they're flooding the body with
fresh and living, just nutrients to give to the body and not tax the body. It's just giving. And so when you take a step back and say, okay, well, how can I give more and more to my body? It's common sense with food for the most part, real food, whole food, Mother Nature. We try to stick to nature the best that we can. That doesn't mean we're perfect. Like Tyleen said, we love to eat like other people love to eat, but we want as much fresh and living food. And in any food that we want you want nutrient dense foods that's going to feed our brain, that's going to feed our body, that we're going to create energy in our body naturally the way it was meant to be. And so what's happened is, all over the world, we've gotten off track, right? We've gotten way off track. And now we're seeing these health issues in young people and really everyone. And this starts when we're little ones. When we're in mommy's, right? Mom's belly.
Yes, very, very important.
Along the way. And so you've got to remember, things start at an early age, but it's also never too late to start helping the body. So I want to give an example. Ty was talking about plums, and she showed you a plum, fresh and living food, apples. When we heat the food, it's now dead. That's all. So our body has to figure out, how do I break this food down? How do I absorb it? And the challenge is, the mystery is, our body's inability for certain types of food groups, or certain, maybe it's protein, maybe it's carbs, maybe it's fats or sugars. And a lot of the most popular one is being lactose intolerant, and really meaning your body ran out of the enzyme lactase, so you can't break down milk sugar. So now if you eat dairy,
it's uncomfortable.
People get uncomfortable, right? And so
you get gassy.
you feel that one. The other ones you don't feel, right? You don't feel when something's going wrong. Like in my case, that pain.
You felt that one in your hands, but over time,
right? And that was because this pain was bothering me so much. I didn't know my body couldn't break my proteins down. My body doesn't know if I'm eating a chicken breast or
peanut butter
or whatever it is. If it's dead, it's dead. And protein, it wants the amino acid. And in my case, it stayed more as uric acid. I couldn't break it down completely. Well, it's true for all these different things. And so the mystery is, if you say, well, what are you talking about, Sean? Well, it's all about our little bank account of enzymes. And we were all born with a different amount. And the mystery is we don't know what that is. And some of us start more depleted than others, and so the food's different now. The soil is different. The way food is produced now is different. So you're really taxing the body. And now we're seeing all these different health issues, from generation to generation. It's gotten worse and worse and worse. I'm 58, Ty's 53 now. We, being, with kids, autism, that wasn't really a thing. We never even knew.
Let alone arthritis in little kids. That was an old person's disease.
Now it's in 7 and 8 year old children, these types of things. So let's share. This is what Tylene did to help me understand. I don't know if any of you have ever seen this little pudding demonstration.
So you guys call it mousse.
Mousse.
We learned that.
We'll do that
when we were traveling.
Let's just do that real quickly.
But the reason we like to use this is it's just really, really simple. And we used to teach kids. We would travel everywhere and just teach everybody what we're getting ready to teach you. And we're really passionate about it. But basically, you just open up this little pudding because it's convenient. But this is to represent all cooked food. So I don't want you to get your mind wrapped up in the fact that this is chocolate pudding or chocolate mousse. This is to represent all cooked food. So I don't care if it's a piece of salmon that's been totally cooked, broccoli that's been cooked, potatoes that have been cooked, which when we were traveling, a lot of potatoes. Everywhere we went, they ate potatoes in 5 different ways.
Ireland was amazing.
Yes, potatoes. Whether it's a French fry or mashed potatoes or a gratin. There was definitely different ways that you could kill a potato. So they were all prepared, but it would not be fresh and living anymore. And what's interesting about potatoes, sweet potatoes, raw, fresh and living sweet potatoes, you can eat raw. You just cut them up and eat them like you'd eat a carrot. And when Sean mentioned nutrient dense food, that is a very nutrient dense food that gives to the body. So, but back to cooked food. So this is to represent all cooked food. I'm going to stir it a little bit right now, just so you can see. I don't want to drop it on the computer, but I want you to see how thick it's just sticking to the spoon. So I always say, do you want your food to digest and be processed? Or do you want it like this sticking to your hips and your butt and your gut? No, you don't. You want to be able to process your food. So I'm going to show you something really, really cool.
Here, we got it right here.
Nope, he's already got one.
So I'm going to put this little veggie capsule. It's just a full spectrum plant enzyme. Research on these go back to the 1930s. I'll open it just for this demonstration.
So if you were to take this, you just put the capsule in your mouth and take it at the beginning of a meal. It's going to help you process your meal better, whatever it is that you're eating that's cooked. If you're eating an apple or a pineapple or raw salmon like sashimi or anything like that, or you're eating broccoli raw, you do not need this because you already have the enzymes in that raw food. Here, I don't want to put it down so you don't see what I'm doing. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing, but I don't want to spill it on the computer.
Tell them why you're stirring. What's that? Mimicking?
So when you're stirring this, you can do this with oatmeal. You could do it with mashed potatoes. You can do it with whatever you want, but it's really just to show people a demonstration of how enzymes work. But I'm stirring it because I want to mimic the peristalsis action, that wave-like motion that goes on in your body naturally. So it's already processing it. I don't even know if you can see this. It's already turning into liquid. I'm trying to make sure I'm in the camera, but it's.
Let me put this glass up there for you.
Yes, that'd probably be good. But I want you guys to see
you guys
this.
See that?
Hopefully we're in the camera. But you can probably actually even hear it with the microphone. But so what that's doing and what it did is it liquefied it, but not in the sense of throwing it in a blender with water. It actually broke down each structure that was in that food. So enzymes are substrate specific. So you need an enzyme for each macronutrient. So what was in that pudding is a protein, a carb, and a fat. So a macronutrient meaning like a large molecule. So everything you eat is a protein, a carb, and a fat. And you need to process that down to its most usable form so you can feed your brain, feed your muscles, not create disease, be able to get nutrients to your bloodstream, get oxygen throughout the body. So your fats have to break down to fatty acids, so the body can utilize them to build the structures around your red blood cells. All of your proteins have to break down to amino acids. So when Sean was saying his fingers were hurting, and some people that gathers in their toes or whatever, and that's because the body's super smart. It's pushing it away from your heart so you don't die of a heart attack. So it's taking this excess uric acid and pushing it to your fingers and toes. And uric acid needs to be broken all the way down to an amino acid so you can actually use it. Mm-hmm. And so if it stays as uric acid, now it's a bad thing. It's clogging the body. And so that's that. So I'm thinking, what am I forgetting? All of your carbs need to break down. All of your sugars need to break down. Your starches, everything needs to break down into a simple glucose, which actually feeds the brain. But if it stays as a larger molecule floating around in the body, not the way it's needed where your body recognizes it, that's when it wreaks havoc. That's what creates disease.
And that's really, your blood, like in my mom's case, she passed of colon cancer, early 60s. It was too early, and I remember her not being able to go to the toilet, to the bathroom. And I always thought she was hiding from all 8 of us kids, but really she probably was that too, but she was a little bit, she was constipated. And of course, why wouldn't she pass of colon cancer? And so, we come into this world pooping, eating, sleeping, things go
pooping, in one end, out
the other. And as we stop, pooping is really important. We can do a whole poop talk because.
Right. But although I don't want you to think that you run to the bathroom. No. We just like to use chocolate pudding.
Yeah, we gotta go vanilla.
But you definitely
we gotta switch it up.
It's about absorbing nutrients. It's not about running to the bathroom.
And what happens, especially when we're younger, and especially females, well, children, we were just talking. I mean, children, younger ones, they don't want to go to go poop at school. It's not the right place. Maybe it's just different. You're uncomfortable. And certainly women, right?
Yeah, it was never cool to poop. So
women,
we'd have to have the right lighting, the right room. We'd wait till we got
music
home
going on, whatever.
Wait till we got home from school, make sure no one's in the house. What happens is that peristalsis action I was telling you about, when you hold your food in, when you have that urge to go, the worst thing you can do is hold it in, because you're retraining the body to go the other direction. And you're retraining that peristalsis action, that wave-like motion that's supposed to get things out and get things moving, and where you can absorb nutrients through the lining of your intestinal tract. You're creating a host of issues by holding that in. So you really don't ever want to do that. And you want to teach your kids, did you go to the bathroom today? Did you go to the bathroom today? You really want to kind of communicate about it.
Yeah, and you really you've got to, it's cool to poop. So we won't keep talking about poop, but if not, your body gets toxic, and these things get in your bloodstream, and it's not cool, because your blood, it gets thicker and stickier or whatever it is that's going on.
All that debris has to go somewhere, and what will happen is it seeps through the intestinal tract and gets into the bloodstream, and that's where there's all kinds of issues at that point.
You want your red blood cells, feeding your brain, traveling throughout your body in a short period of time. You want them to have nutrients to deliver as it's traveling through the body and into the brain. And we wonder, right now there's so many issues going on with, anxiety and stress and sleep and depression and all these things. We have to feed our brain. This isn't that complicated, and we're getting these chemicals in our body. And that little capsule, by the way, has a full spectrum plant enzyme she was breaking down that food with. But it's also important to know she had a little bit of stabilized probiotics in there, right? Good gut bacteria, friendly gut bacteria And when you have enough of that going on, it creates good vitamin B to feed the brain. And remember, if you're deficient in one little enzyme, you could just be missing one nutrient. And all of a sudden you're able to absorb that nutrient, things start to change in your body. And that's why everything, whether we were working with professional athletes, pregnant moms, it didn't matter, children, elderly, it doesn't matter. Think about older people. What happens to them later in life? What are they, if they're in assisted living homes or something, what are they feeding them? They're feeding them these drinks, and these smoothie kind of these drinks because they can't digest their food anymore. And so your body's producing these enzymes, but we're also very deficient in specific enzymes, some of us way more than others. And now that the food has changed and the chemicals we got so many things going on.
Well, in general, as a society, we're eating far too much cooked and processed food, and that's taxing our body. So yes, we're going to have amylase that breaks down your carbs in your saliva. Your pancreas is going to be secreting enzymes. But what we're talking about is it's almost like a pancreatic insufficiency where it just cannot keep up with the amount of cooked and processed food that we as human beings are now bringing into our body. We were never meant to eat this much. And so what's happening is all this debris in the bloodstream that needs to keep moving. It has to get out.
Well, the reason why we're talking about this is because everything starts in the gut. Everything starts with digestion. And so what these enzymes are doing is it's helping when you're eating these foods, because that's where everything begins. And so it's the beginning. And so all these health things that are going on out, these diseases and issues, you can pretty much trace those back to some form of bad inflammation. Something went wrong over a period of time. Like when we eat, you think about this, you're eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, or whatever it is, maybe desserts or snacks every day, every week, every month, every year, and that's a lot. That's a lot. And so this isn't that complicated. It's very simple. However, most doctors don't study nutrition. They're not taught that. We love our doctors, so this isn't about that, but they just don't know. And so now more than ever, they're acknowledging that food is such an important thing. I can't stress it enough. It's so important what you're putting in your mouth. And it takes a few weeks. They say about 21 days for your body to change, your taste buds to get used to eating some things that are more fresh and living, because you get used to stuff, right? And sugar and all these things.
We definitely get used to sugar.
We do, but I want to say, like with these, I started mentioning earlier, we work with all these athletes, and it starts with, in the US, years ago when we were teaching all this, a lot of the professional athletes, university athletes, etc., started eating more fresh and living food. And the reason why is because the body focuses on that first before anything else. So if they're trying to be this elite athlete and go out and perform, and their body's focusing on this stuff they just ate, that's not so good. If their body, like Ty mentioned, sweet potato, sliced raw sweet potatoes, their body doesn't have to focus on that. It's just you're just, oh, thank you.
It's like having a bank account that you just keep putting money in and you don't take any money out. When we eat cooked and processed food, we're constantly taking money out of our bank account. And we're hoping that it's even a break even, that we took money out, meaning our enzymes out, to process that food to get whatever that food's going to give us. And so most people at best are at a break even, where they're bringing in some good food and they're using some nutrients to extract everything out of that good food. But I would say, based on the disease state that a great amount of the world is in, is because they're always at a deficit. They're bringing in poor quality food. It's all heated, cooked, processed, microwaved, you name it.